good afternoon. My name is Mutitambi Ravere. I'm the co-founder of South African. Here we are talking about mentorship, which is something that we've been talking about for so long. What we want to do today is to have a discussion with our facilitator and have my two mentees also discussing their experience of mentorship with me. So sit down and relax and enjoy our conversation. But on the other hand, we would want you to ask us questions wherever you have questions and whenever you need clarity. But all in all, I think the discussion is just a short discussion because we don't have most time, but just to discuss our experience as mentor and mentees. So our facilitator today, it's Hema Valdan. And Hema is a co-founder and CEO of One Hub, which is an intervention which look on engineering. And what she do is to support girls and women in engineering. But also Hema is a gender activist. And also she also look at leading and growing the global social enterprise. Hema have a lot of experience on mentorship, and Hema, over to you.
Hi, and thank you very much, and good afternoon. I think officially afternoon to everybody, lunchtime coming out at 1 o'clock. And thank you so much, Ntambi, for the introduction. Very excited to be here today as we talk mentorship. You know, mentorship for me has always been such a important topic. I think it's one of those hidden subliminal things that just doesn't get the spotlight that it really deserves, because, you know, I always say I have had such a journey. I'm an engineer by training, and, you know, a decade and a half ago, I started a nonprofit organization developing women in engineering, and have subsequently grown that into a global social enterprise. And it's been such a labor of love, and, you know, really a lot of learning on the job. And I always say, you know, I'm a self-proclaimed product of mentorship. It may not have been called that, you know, 10 years ago, but, you know, today it's a very formal term, but I've certainly had people hold my hand along the journey, share their experiences, have allowed me to leverage up their experience. And for me, that has made all the difference. And it's, you know, because of my personal experience and because of my journey that I really do believe that mentorship, when done right, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, can really be a leadership development tool. You know, while it can happen very organically, and I think there's a magic in that, on the flip side, when done in a structured, more purposeful way, it can really, really give you such fantastic results. Because I can also certainly say what mentorship is not. It's not just two people, you know, slapping two people together and saying, hey, you 10 years older, you 10 years younger, you both accountants, you know, there you go, we have a mentoring program. It's not as simple as that either. So there's this beautiful space in the middle of the organic, but also very structured. Such fantastic results. That's, so I'm getting a little bit of back feed, but hopefully you can still hear me. Yeah, so like I said, that's what today is about, specifically unpacking this mystical thing called mentorship, looking specifically in the bigger sports space, and certainly when it comes to women in particular, why is it so important? And, you know, I can sit here and talk about mentorship till I'm blue in the face, but I always say the best way to really, really unpack it is by sharing live experiences of people who have been through it, sharing what works, what doesn't work, what can really come out of this, but also where are the challenges. And it's with that in mind, I'm really, really excited to introduce our panelists and bring them on studio so that we can have a discussion and talk mentorship. So on that note, let's dive straight into it. With regards to just some, I guess, housekeeping and just general platform engagement, we are broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook. There is a live stream where you can both listen to us, but also this is also about your questions. What would you like us to address? What are the themes? What are the questions? What's keeping you up at night when we start thinking around mentorship? So please do populate that within the comment section. We also love reactions. So if you like in the conversation, please do press the like buttons, the love buttons, and everything else that goes along with that. We do have someone in the back end producing the show, and hence will really make sure that all your questions are seen, and hopefully we'll get to cover a lot of that as well. So with that in mind, I know you've just welcomed me, Ntambi, but I'm going to welcome you back and bring you on. As Ntambi is someone with such fantastic experience, and if there's one golden word that's important in leadership, it's just that, experience. Somebody who's walked the path, who's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Yeah. And I think someone with your wealth of experience, the journey that you've tread along, over the last many decades, welcome, and and I'm really looking forward to having you share your experience as a mentor. And I know there's two very, very fortuitous women who will be joining us who have been your mentees. So on that note, I'd also like to welcome Mane and Dumi. And we're all friends here, so we're going on first names. This is the community, this is the family. We keep the conversation fairly casual. And like I said, really get the crux of the matters. And like I said, open conversation right here. So I do believe that, our bios, we're living in the information age, so there's bios online and profiles. So I'm not going to read through the CV because I think that's boring. What I do want to go to a quick round robin and ask each of you to please introduce yourself very quickly. Name, where are you calling in from today? What sport do you play? And if you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Oh my God.
So I'm going to start.
I've done that already, so I think it's for the mentees to do it.
And see, Ntambi's playing the power card, right? Delegating right there. We're going to come back to them. Let's start. Let's kick off with Mane.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mani Biganyo. I'm the head of marketing and communications at the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Pretoria. I'm not too sure Hema caught us off guard with the superhero question, but I think if I had a superpower, it would be to unleash people's true potential. I think that would be my superpower. So my life in sports has been centralized around marketing and communications and everything to do with it. Prior to my current role, I used to be Tuck Sports Marketing Manager, and currently within my line of working at the Faculty of Health Sciences, I am responsible for overseeing the marketing and communications strategy and structures of over 50 departments, including 11 institutes as well. 14 institutes and centers. So my job is just basically that, overseeing marketing and communications and everything to do with it. And fortunately, within that spectrum, we've got SEMLI, which is the Sports Education, Medicine and Lifestyle Institute at the university, as well as the section of sports medicine, which is a part of our faculty.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Mane. And over to you, Dumi.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Dumisani Chauke. I am a sport organizer at the Tshwane University of Technology. I am in charge of netball and basketball. I am also the head coach of the netball program at TUT, which encompasses all 6 of our campuses, TUT Pretoria, TUT Garamkuwa, Soshanguve, Polokwane, Emalahleni, and TUT Mbombela. One of my other hats that I wear is that I am the assistant coach of the SPAR Proteas, the netball team. I am the founder of the Dumisani Chauke Netball Foundation. And lastly, where I am right now, I am currently in Bloemfontein in a bio bubble where we are preparing for the 2020 Telkom Netball League competition, kicking off on the 14th of October until the 27th. And here I am wearing the hat of the head coach of the Gauteng Golden Fireballs. I think I'll leave it at that for now.
So other than wearing multiple hats and doing all your jobs so fantastically, because that for me is certainly a superpower, what would be the other one?
The other superpower, I don't know, to read minds and be able to manipulate people to eliminate self-doubt.
Fantastic. Love that. And over to you, Ntambi, just wrapping up. We all know and love you and know who you are, but actually never hurt.
I introduce myself, but part of the work that I do, it's on sports administration. And except for that, I'm quite involved in business also. I serve in few boards. That actually allows me to broaden my network and to understand more how business run, and so that I can use those skills into sports. My superpower, whoa. You know what? I would be happy one day if I find women liberating themselves. I think most of the time we restrict ourselves, and as a result, we are our biggest enemy, and we are not liberated. And I wish one day that we could have women liberating themselves. Yeah.
Wonderful. And from everything that I know about you, you really are a Wonder Woman yourself in your own right. So with that in mind, thank you once again to all of you for being here and for being so willing to share your journeys with us. My invite to you really is be open, be honest. This is both a learning experience for you, but also for all those wonderful members who have joined us through the different channels. And I'm sure they're looking just as forward as I am to hearing from you. So the way we'll go with structure, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on Q&A with you guys. And what I will do is I will either ask some open questions or direct a question specifically to either you and Ntambi as a mentor, or to me, either you and Mani as mentees. And again, like I said, the invite to those who are watching, please do pop your questions into the threads as well, because after the initial round, we will open up live Q&A as well. And yeah, like I said, whether it's a question, a theme, a topic, whatever's keeping you up at night, and how that will help you in your own journeys, both as mentors and mentees. And then what we'll do in the last 10 minutes of the session, we'll also be talking a little bit more about the South African Women in Sports Foundation's, the specific mentoring program that we will be launching, and how you can get involved with that. So on that note, I guess I'd be amiss if I didn't start the question off with you, Ntambi, and asking you, you've had such a journey, you've had so much success, you've well deserved a break. You could very much take the gloves off and sit down and say, my job here is done. But you haven't done that, right? You keep going, and you've now, over and above what's already a busy schedule, you make the time to mentor not just Mani and Dumi, but I know you do a lot of other work in this space as well. So why is mentorship so important to you, and what drives you in your ambition to mentor others?
One thing that happened in my life is the fact that I had two people who formally mentored me, and unfortunately they were Australians. One of them was Australian in South Africa, where he was working at this National Sports Council. And Colin Brown used to actually, and I was not aware at that time that he was actually mentoring me, until such time that he started sitting down with me and actually assisting me in running training workshops, in preparing development programs. And he would actually, every time after we do the work, sit down with me and actually evaluate the work that I've done. And until one day he said to me, Ntambi, I want myself, when I leave this country, I should leave people with well knowledge of running training and workshops. And he had done that with so many of us. And I think even now, many administrators benefited from Colin. The second one was Libby Dallison. Libby, I started meeting with her because I had a lot of trips into Australia on exchange programs. And one of the programs, when I arrived in South Wales, I was welcomed by Libby, and then they allocated her to me to assist me. And as a result, she became my mentor throughout. And what I liked with her during the conference of Women in Sports conference in Namibia, she actually put me into the network of global sports, because of one thing she was doing was to introduce me to people and to start conversations so that I can take over the conversations. And that on its own helped me a lot to gain my confidence. But not only that, it helped me to understand, how do you network? Where do you network? And she told me, Ntambi, network, it doesn't matter where it is. And she's one person who taught me to even follow people in the toilet. when you want to really talk to somebody, follow her wherever that person is, and make sure that if you are not on table one, you can meet with table one people during break. And she taught me that, and I think out of that, I realized that I developed a lot. She actually even assisted me into serving into Women's Sports International, which was an organization that I didn't even know, but because of her network, that helped me to actually even reach that level. But also, I then came back to think, to say, if I benefited a lot from these people, how do I actually take that to other women and empower women? Because I realized that I was empowered by them, then I then have an issue to also empower other women. And that's what I'm doing. And unfortunately for now, I'm not only mentoring women. There are men who come and request for mentorship. And I do that because I benefited also from a man as a mentor.
Thank you so much. I'm hearing so many important points there. Everything from passing on institutional knowledge, from opening up a network and, a world, I always say, opening up a world of possibilities that you otherwise would not have known about, to also just simply championing and helping you flourish in your journey. And I think you are so fortunate that you've been able to walk that journey with others guiding you. But I think what I love the most is where you ended off saying, this was bestowed upon me and it's my role to then pay it forward. There's a wonderful saying that says, lift as you rise. And I believe that mentorship is really one very powerful way in which you can do that. And we'll certainly build on the point you made at the end as well, around the way you as a mentor also have value added to you. So I'm going to park that point, but I'm certainly going to come back to it. But now from the other end, right? So I also know that, mentors, and again, I keep talking to the amazing track record you've had and just what you've been able to achieve. And I can totally imagine that, young, ambitious women like Mane and Dumi coming in, no doubt putting you on some sort of a pedestal as they look up to you as a trailblazer in this field. And, I'd like to hear from them, what was the journey like for them in terms of, how did this mentoring relationship even begin? What made you want to approach Ntambi to be a mentee? Your mentor. Were there any reservations you had? Were you afraid? Were you excited? Were you intimidated? And I'll give each of you a chance to share on this, because I think it's nice to hear how the journeys were either very similar or very different. But let's kick off with you, Dumi. What was this? How did this relationship begin? And where was your head at?
Firstly, I think growing up, being in the sport of netball, I knew Ntambi from the part of things. She was the president of South Africa for a while, and then she moved over to boxing, and I still followed her when she moved over to boxing, to football, and now she's recently with tennis South Africa. So she's always been someone that I looked up to, because for myself I had a path where post my playing days I'll get into coaching, post my coaching days I want to get into administration. So I've always been preparing for all those phases of my life while I was a player, because I started coaching while I was in administration while I was still a player. So I guess from her being someone that I looked up to in the industry, attending one of our events at T, I then to myself, maybe this is a sign from the universe. You always look up to this person, unity, get some sort of guidance. Because I needed advice on how I can structure my pathway and the stuff that I want to do, and also get some of her experiences and the lessons that she's learned along the way, so that I don't have to make or go through all the hardships myself, but just prepare way in advance for all of that. And I think I sent her a message, I called her, or I sent an email. But initially, I sent a request for a meeting, and to my pleasant surprise, she agreed to the meeting, and I was literally shocked. I was like, "Oh, okay, she agreed. Now what? What are you going to say when you get there?" So I still had my notebook. It's not exactly this one, but it's the same color, same size, same everything. And I had my notes written down, items that I wanted to written down, and we talked about a couple of things, experiences with me, and that's when. So yes, I'm here to ask for advice, but maybe we should formalize this, like you to mentor me, because then you have vast experience in this industry, and you as my son to do some of the things that I want to do. And it's been a great, I think 3 years now. I think 3 years. It's been a great 3 years of learning from my side, and sharing as well. And I know the mentorship cycle has to come to an end at some point, and she knows I hate talking about this because I don't want it to end. But yeah, that's how I started. Yes, I had my anxiety going in because I didn't know what she was going to say. Because also you don't go in there with expectations, because people are quite busy. They have their own commitments, they have their own obligations and responsibilities. But what I said to myself going into that meeting, I said, listen, the worst thing she can say is no, and then life goes on. And I guess that is why I went in not really expecting her to say surprise. It was how my relationship with Mam Tambiravele as a mentor-mentee.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And, as someone who's run so many workshops and facilitated so many conversations and actually done training around mentoring, and both from a mentor and a mentee perspective, I mean, it's almost like this was scripted, because you seem to be like my perfect case study, right? So I just think, if anything people want to take away from that is just so many important lessons. I think what I loved hearing there was, one, that you drove the conversation, right? So you were super proactive. I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So the fact that you drove the conversation, you made the ask, also in terms of just going in prepared. So, sometimes people make the ask, but in a very casual and just like, oh, well, you be my mentor, but they haven't really thought beyond what that means. The fact that, like I said, you went in prepared, you had sort of an agenda, a list of items. For me, that also shows respect towards the mentor, that, and you said it yourself, I know you're busy, I know you've got a lot on your plate, but how can you help me in the easiest way possible? Let me help you, refine your time. So I think some really important lessons coming in there around, one, the mentee driving the relationship, being proactive, and also just coming in really prepared. And like you said, the worst thing someone can say is no. Oftentimes, and not at all taken away from Tambi's greatness, but at the end of the day, we put these people on a pedestal, you look up to them, but when you meet them, you realize, hey, they're just like me. They're just a person too. And I think that's so important. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Mani, from your side, so how similar, how different was it for you in your journey and, embarking on this relationship with Tambi?
I think for me, Hema, the difference is that our mentorship relationship actually developed organically. So I didn't come and I didn't just go and approach Mama Ndambi. I actually met her through a former colleague, and I was supposed to come in. I think it was for SAWASF and also another NGO to help assist as a volunteer. And I think she started noticing that, okay, she needs a little, like, a little clean up, because I was a bit of a hot head back in the day. And over time, it actually ended up becoming a mentorship relationship. So probably the first year when we met and we used to work together, and I used to volunteer. Every once in a while I'd pop in and ask her a few questions here and there. And I think she started realizing that, yeah, she doesn't have a mentor, she probably needs a mentor. So let me kind of like break the ice and say to her, officially, let's help you. Let's actually make this relationship official, so we can actually make sure that we have a strategic relationship that also grooms you into becoming the woman that you can become, especially considering that you're already moving into spaces very quickly at a very young age, meaning that there's some aspects that you may neglect from the perspective of a young upcoming Black woman in sport. So you need to guard your steps. You need to be very wary of how you respond and become a little bit more strategic. So she kind of saw that something is amiss here. Let me reel her back in and let me offer her some guidance. And then we made our relationship, I think our mentorship and mentee relationship official about 4 years ago. And we've been, I guess, working on it since then.
And just out of interest, and I mean, thank you. That's, like I said, there's so much magic in when these things happen really organically. But I'd love to learn from you. So do you find that once the relationship was more formalized, you felt a little bit more freer and more able to ask her more direct questions, as opposed to, when maybe when it was less formal, you were like, can I ask that? Can I not? Yes. Is it okay? Was there a change in dynamic once you formalized the relationship?
Yes, there was a change in dynamic, because now there is also accountability. Because that's the one thing that's important about a mentee and mentorship relationship is accountability. We assume that the relationship will develop itself, that the relationship will groom you itself. But now you start learning that you need to be proactive, that you need to have consistent dates, that you need to come back and actually give your mentor feedback about things that they've been helping you with. Are you growing in these aspects? What are you doing better? Where do you still need help and guidance in terms of those?
Thank you so much. And I think that's again another, there's so many great golden nuggets coming out here, and I hope people are taking notes around, just what is possible again once, we have the platform set and trust is established. Because, both of you have had such a great relationship, 3 and 4 years spanning. I mean, that's amazing. And hence, like I said, I'm sure there's so much trust established. And, we have no doubt painted quite a rosy picture, if you will, of mentorship. And I think that's largely what it is. But I would also assume that it hasn't all just been smooth sailing. And like I said, an open and honest space over here. I would love for all of you, and I'll take you through a round robin from here, but both from a mentor perspective and from mentees, what have you found to be the most challenging? So maybe Ntambi, let's start with you as a mentor. And like I said, there's often assumptions that, mentors just have all the answers. They've got it all together and they're living this wonderful dream life. But do you ever feel pressure as a mentor? What has been some of the challenges that you have experienced in taking on this role? So I think you're still on mute, Ntambi.
Sorry. I think one of them is time management, because of I always worry that I shouldn't disappoint my mentees. So which means whenever they request time, I should try and slot the session into my diary. So it's one of those challenges. But the other challenge that I personally have, and I don't think that my mentees have, is also an issue about managing expectations, because of I don't know what they are expecting from me other than what we are discussing, because of sometimes you might think that you are discussing everything, and whilst possibly the mentee might be expecting more. So I always worry about that, and it's a challenge on my side, because I want to make sure that my mentees gain and everything that they wanted to gain out of the relationship. But also, again, I don't want, again, to mislead my mentees. So I always make sure that whatever I communicate with them, I have researched thoroughly and make sure that what I'm communicating is it's facts and it's correct. So that I can actually even monitor after advising, to make sure that what I have said, it's implemented in the right way. So I think, to me, the challenges are mostly on my side. Both of them are not giving me serious challenges, except that sometimes I have to call to say, hey, you haven't responded to me, or you are so quiet, you are for a long time, we haven't spoken. Because one of the things that mentors and mentees should do is to make sure that they touch base, even if there's no activity, because of that actually made the relationship to be much better. So I do that sometimes to check, to say, but we have been too quiet for a long time. What's up? And you know what? Usually when you ask that question, you find that there are so many other issues that were happening in between, and the mentee is not communicating those issues. And I think keeping on that conversation helps to discuss issues that need some guidance.
Thank you. I think, that's, again, so powerful. And I know there are probably many people watching and, who are experienced and who really want to share, but, sometimes they have some reservations, because they think, all of those things. What if I don't live up to expectations? What if I don't have all the answers? What if I don't have enough time? But I think Ntambi is a wonderful example to say that, you know what? It's okay. It's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to have your reservations. Don't ever let that hold you back from taking on this mantle of being a mentor. It's about the support system that you yourself as a mentor have around you. But again, for me, the openness and honesty with your mentees is, letting them know that, it's okay for me to, if Mane asks me a question, I'm like, I don't know, but I will either go find out, or I'll introduce you to somebody who does know, or ... There's always other ways around that. So for those of you who do have these reservations, the good news is it's okay. So don't let that hold you back, and please do put yourself forward to become a mentor. From a mentee perspective, and maybe Mane, if you can share with us from your perspective, what are the challenges for you? Do you have any regrets? It's been 4 years. Other things you think you could have, would have, or should have done differently, perhaps?
I think on my end, I think in the initial stages of the mentorship and mentee relationship, I would have been more brave to say, I'm not sure if I understand this completely, because I don't think I spoke a lot initially, because you don't want to make the mentor feel uncomfortable. You feel a bit intimidated, to be honest, because here you are, there's somebody of this of who's actually accomplished so much, who's willing to mentor you, and sometimes you get a little bit nervous to ask certain questions or have uncomfortable conversations, because you just like, she's giving you enough time, like don't ask stupid things even though there's no stupid question. But over time, I think Mama Ntambi has kind of like also ushered me in, because I'm one of those who as much as my line of work is communications, I'm an ambivert. So in public platforms, I can be an extrovert. On a personal level, I can be completely closed off. And over time, she's actually reeled me in to actually help me learn to let go of that part and become more comfortable in being proactive and having these conversations and saying, Mama Ntambi, I'm actually not comfortable with that. Is there another way that we can relook the situation? Or I can even ask, but Mama Ntambi, yeah, I hear you, but isn't there another alternative? So in the initial stages, I was a bit like, I don't want to say scared, maybe let's say a little bit intimidated. But over time, I've grown more confident in it. And I think that's the whole point of a mentor and mentee relationship, is to actually heighten or help strengthen your weaknesses and the areas that you need to grow in.
Fantastic. And, on that note of, oh my gosh, is this a stupid question? Because let me tell you, we all go through that in various facets of our life. But Dumi, knowing what you know now, having built this relationship with Ntambi, looking back, are there any questions, maybe at any milestone points in your life that you wish you had asked and you perhaps didn't? Or, something that you wish you had pulled that kind of information out of your mentor that, you didn't because something was holding you back at all?
Hi, Hema. Oh, I don't know if it's at the hotel. I didn't get most of the question. Can you please repeat it for me? Sorry.
Sure, not a problem at all. Hopefully you can hear me a bit better now. Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Great. So I was saying, what, if any, on the thought of, oh my gosh, that is such a stupid question. I can't ask that. Knowing what you know now, having built trust over the 3 years with Ntambi, are there any questions that you wish you should have, that you wish you asked, that you could have or should have, be it, at a milestone that you were at the time, or, making a big decision, but you never took the opportunity to ask your mentor that? Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Nah, I think by virtue of me being bold enough and brave enough, first and foremost, to ask for the meeting, and then after that, going into a meeting prepared and asking her to be my mentor, I think she knows I pick up the phone anytime and I ask her whatever I want to ask, because the worst thing she can say is no. That's
exactly.
it. That's the worst thing she can say. Or she can say, listen, I'm not sure about this. Let's put it on our agenda, and we both understand what I am asking with the information. I think also just to add on to what Mike has already spoken about in terms of some of the challenges. I mean, one thing for me was that when it initially started, before we got nice and comfortable, I used to because I didn't want to disappoint her, because putting time aside, mentor me and to assist and guide and advise. So the fear of failure was what was driving the relationship in the beginning from my side. That then led or bred the fact that because I didn't want to disappoint my mentor because she's taken out time, I then wanted to do too much. I wanted to be everywhere, and it wasn't working. And I guess after we sat down and we narrowed down the options, and me being me, at first I was like, no, but I want everything. She's like, but you must do everything. And I had to take that and say, okay, Dumi, yes, you do all these things. Let's prioritize. And that is when I learned the skill of prioritizing options, and we're working towards a certain goal in certain areas, and I guess not only was that a challenge, we changed it and it became an opportunity for us to narrow down the options and make sure that we have attention on this goal or this thing that we are working towards. And so yeah, so anyone out there who's watching, no question is stupid, number one. Number two, worst thing someone can is no one kill you. I'm still, oh, it's not gonna kill you. What goes on?
Such important lessons coming out there. And I think something else that was, subtly said, but I just want to highlight it. We often talk about this challenge of time management when it comes to the mentor, because there's this assumption that only the mentor is so busy. But make no mistake, being a mentee takes a lot of time and capacity as well. And we should never underestimate that, it can also be just because a mentee doesn't come to you always, on a too frequent a basis, doesn't mean they're not interested. We always have to have a high level of empathy as mentors, understanding what is it exactly on our mentee's plate as well. And to Ntambi, exactly how Ntambi managed this with Tumi, have the conversation, be open and transparent, and then either you prioritize what are the top things you want to talk about, or you space out your meetings a little bit broader. But again, there's always solutions, as opposed to going to the conclusion that, this mentoring thing is just not working. So, mentees, I think a lot of mentors also respect that you are busy women in your own rights, but don't ever be afraid to communicate that with them as well, that, you're struggling with time, or you'd like to, relook at how you make this better work for you as well. A myth I want to bust is that it's a mentor-mentee relationship is not a hierarchy. Both the mentee and the mentor bring value to the relationship. Yes, by and large, often mentees, like I said, they're the ones who drive the relationship. But I can guarantee you the mentor is also gaining value from that. And I did promise I'm going to come back to this point. And, on that perspective, we've heard such amazing things that you've added to both Mani and Tumi and Ntambi in terms of how much they've learned from you, how much they've benefited. But I can put money on the table that you yourself has grown as an individual, as a professional, and in so many other ways, having them as your mentees. So can you just share a little bit about that and what the journey is like been for you from a value add perspective? Are you still on mute? I'm sorry.
Mentoring forces you to step back and gain perspective. And when you do that, you are benefiting yourself, because you wouldn't have done that if you were not mentoring someone. But also it helps you to grow as a leader and leadership capacity, because of one thing, that I wouldn't mentor someone on something that I will do wrong myself. So in the same time, I'm actually growing with my levels of leadership. But also there's an issue of lessons that you teach, and they are a good reminder of yourself, that you make sure that you shouldn't do something different. But the two issues that I benefit from the two of them, with Mani, it's more about technology. Us at mid-50s and whatever, technology is something else. And you know what? She actually becomes my mentor when it comes to that, because she would actually say, Mama Ntambi, no, we don't do it this way. And she will actually go through steps by step with me. And actually it helped me, because I want to challenge her. And I come back now with new technology and whatever. So we both grow in the process whilst we're doing that. With Dumisani, she is so energetic. She is so energetic, and she's right to say, I had to draw her back to say, you know what, relax, prioritize, focus, and make sure that you achieve every goal of what you are doing. So Dumisani helps me a lot with actually on projects, because she can do 1,000 things at the same time, And some of the activities that I have to do, I just throw back to her to assist me with it. So yes, there are benefits. It's a win-win situation in mentorship. You don't actually just impart knowledge, you gain a lot of knowledge.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned the first point, especially because it's actually a concept. There's this concept called reverse mentorship, and that's when the mentee actually, in their own way, mentors the mentor. And the example you gave is a perfect one, technology, right? Because, and I guess the point I also want to make there, I already mentioned that mentoring is not a hierarchical relationship. And the second point is that let's not take it for granted the mentor is not always the older person because of the experience, but often it is the case where the person with more experience is either older or more experienced, but it's certainly not a rule. You can certainly have a younger person mentoring an older person because they've had a different journey, a different set of experience that you may not have had. So I think those 2 points are super important. And again, this context of reverse mentorship, which it's a beautiful dance almost, if you will, between the mentor and the mentee, and on different topics, who takes the lead, right? So I think thank you so much for sharing that. With that, I'm going to again open up the different live feeds to questions. So please pop them in. But I do want to talk to one or two comments that I have seen shown up on the screen. And I know, Tammy, you already mentioned that you had, two mentors in particular who have made such an impact on your lives. Just quickly, by show of hands, Mane and Dumi, do either of you have another mentor in any facet of your life other than Tambi? So I see Mane is nodding. Yeah. And there was a question on the and Dumi as well. And I think that's, again, yet another important takeaway. I saw a comment on the chat earlier that says, the person's mentor wasn't really meeting their requirements. And you know what? That's normal in terms of depending what is your vast array of requirements. As mentees, sometimes we have this false expectation that our mentor is the be all and end all. So, I wanted Tambi to help me with my sports professional career, but I also wanted to help me with work-life balance. And then I also wanted to help me become more confident. And then I also wanted to help me with, and the list goes on. That's me putting on a very unnecessary and unrealistic expectation onto my mentor. The better way to mitigate that is get a range of mentors. So, I always use the analogy and I say, all organizations, South African Women in Sports Foundation, to your Microsofts and your Facebooks and, Tiger Brands, I'm throwing out names here. All these big organizations who are so successful, they have a board of advisors, right? They have an executive board, a board of advisors. Why don't we think of ourselves as a business as well? Who is your board of advisors? Who is your board of mentors? And the bigger array you have, if you have an array of about 3 to 5 mentors who are all then specialists, if you will, in different facets, you find you'll be more likely to have your mentors meet your requirements. It makes for healthier relationships with the one-on-ones you do have, and it also gives you, the mentee, a broader scope that you're able to leverage off. So I think on that note, just address the comment that came up. If you do find that your mentor is not meeting your requirements, add to the table.
Yeah.
I'm going to check on the chat if there are any other questions that have come through the feed. But while we're doing that, this is a testament, right? A little bit of shaky Wi-Fi issues, being on mute. We're living in a different world today. So, oftentimes before, in a pre-COVID world, one of the most common questions I would get asked is, oh, but, I'm sitting in Bloemfontein and, my mentors, the person I want to mentor me is sitting in, Joburg or Australia, even as you said, Tambi, this is not going to work. I would like to understand both from your personal perspective, how COVID has affected your mentoring relationship, but also, in this new virtual world as we go forward. And I really just like the term, the new normal, but I'm going to use it anyway. In this new normal, do you see it as more of a hindrance or an opportunity that we're able to do mentoring in particular in a virtual space like this?
You know, with me, it works whatever way because of, I think because of we are both in Pretoria with both my mentees, we can meet and we can, again, not meeting, but we can actually discuss a lot of things. But with Dumisani, the nice thing is the fact that during COVID, we were having projects. So part of our discussions on mentorship were during those activities where wherever we go and run projects, we drive together. So throughout the trip, we would be actually will be doing a lot of mentorship throughout the trip. With Money, because of most of the time she was not available, and I also actually, I think from my side, we were linking. It was more on phone, or else possibly we would actually have our not Skype, our webinar, if I would say so, and discuss issues. So I find that it worked in both ways, and I'm enjoying it. And actually, COVID-19 didn't affect our mentorship.
That's great to hear. And I think also, like I said, I see a question from Veronica here that says, how do you know that mentorship is adding value or being beneficial? And how do you know when it's not? And, tying that to whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, for me, it really comes down to communication. And I think we are living in a world today where communication has always been important, but it's so much more important, given that, you can't see what's happening beyond the screen of mine. So, this will be the last question, given the time, but I'd like each of you, maybe just in one sentence, what would be your litmus test? How would you then, and I think especially when what would be your sign that, I think to me, you alluded to this, this has to come to an end at some point. What would be your litmus test that, okay, I've gotten what I want from this relationship. It's not working as much anymore. Maybe it's time to move on.
Well, one thing for me that has indicated that the relationship has been a success is my thinking skills and decision-making skills have become improved and become more clear. Because it's so easy for a person like me who wears so many hats to be hasty in their decision making and to not always look at an issue from different angles. So one thing that I do know for a fact is thinking skills and decision making skills have definitely improved, and that is evident in the stuff or in the things that I have achieved so far, and the things that, well, I guess I'm still going to achieve going forward.
Great. And I think, I personally see it as a sign of success when a mentee moves on, because it means they've gained what they can from you. They're going to move on. And perhaps like you and Tambi, they're going to pay it forward, right? So I have no doubt in my mind that both Money and Tumi, if not already, are mentoring others and will be doing so a lot more in the future as well. And, with that in mind, I'd like to bring this conversation to a close. I hope that everybody who's watching learned something, got some tips around what works, what doesn't. And if anyone on either end is having reservations again about either being a mentor or a mentee, hopefully this conversation has helped alleviate some of that. And it's with that in mind that I think the South African Women in Sports Foundation is so passionate about mentorship, and not only about sharing this journey, but about putting together a program that will also enable each of you out there to be part of this mentoring journey, either in finding a mentor, finding a mentee, or if you are already peers, how do you better nurture that relationship moving forward? So on that note, thank you, Ntambi, Ntumi, and Mane. And Ntambi, I'm going to hand over to you to talk a little bit more about the South African Women in Sports Foundation's mentoring program and some next steps thereof.
Okay, thank you so much, Haima, for facilitating our discussion. So what we are going to do is that we are now launching our mentorship program, which we would put a link in our Facebook for you to apply. And then actually we'll also put it on our Twitter and Instagram. You will be able to actually link, you'll go on the link and fill in the forms. So if you want to be the mentor, you will fill in to be the mentor. If you want to be a mentee, you will fill to be a mentee. If you have your mentor already and you would want to come with your mentee, you can do that. You can show that I do have a mentor, we just want to join the program, or I need a mentor or I need a mentee. So what we would then do, we would actually try to link those ones without mentors with new mentors, and then from there we will be starting with our program on mentorship. And what we will start with is HEMA. We will be running a training where firstly we would actually go through the process of mentorship, and thereafter we will leave it to you to then do your mentorship program. We will be monitoring actually the progress of your mentorship and make sure that the process goes very well. The other issue that I want to raise is the fact that where are my notes? Oh, fine. Yes, yeah. Is the fact that this mentorship program, we've put it for a year, and then we would monitor for a year, and we only focusing this year on 20 mentees and 20 mentors. If you didn't get a space this year, or you couldn't get somebody who could mentor you, because of we will be looking at what you are looking for and look for a mentor who could actually assist you on those areas. We will put you on the next mentorship program, which we would announce later. But for now, we will be focusing on 20 mentors and 20 mentees. But also I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for participating in this webinar. We will be having monthly webinars at the beginning of the month, of every month. Please follow us on our Facebook, follow us on our Instagram and our Twitter. We will be putting up the dates and the topics that we will be discussing. But all in all, I want to thank you all. We appreciate your involvement. We don't take it for granted. But I think this forum will assist us to share experiences, to share new opportunities, and to share a whole lot of other issues. And that's why sometimes we request you to also send us topics that we should cover, because of we don't only want to cover things that are of importance to us, we want to cover issues that are of importance to you guys. So please make sure that you send us your suggestion of topics that we should focus on in future. Thank you so much, and hope to see you next month. Thank you.